I get that name wrong. Saaudiah Muhammad, right? She's a licensed therapist. She's an author. She's also a mental health advocate, right? And she's here to share with us her journey and to help us unpack the stigma around mental health in the Black community and also in Muslim community. So let's bring our sister up, Sister Saaudiah Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
How did I do with the name? I'm good?
We need a little work, but that's okay. It's Saudi.
Wait,
It's
help me out.
okay. It's okay. Saudi.
Saaudiah.
Think of
Saaudiah.
Saudi Arabia minus Arabia.
Saaudiah. Yeah,
Saudi.
Saaudiah. I got Saaudiah,
Yes.
right?
Saudi. It flows. Saudi.
Saaudiah.
Yes.
Saaudiah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sister, for that. And I appreciate you for taking the time out to be on the show. It's interesting. I feel like I knew you before I met you because watching the videotapes of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Chicago, you on many of them, right? Especially when he's speaking in the sanctuary at Mosque Mariam. So thank you. And I came across your not IG page, your TikTok page, and I saw the work that you are doing in the field of therapy and also mental health. And I recently came across something where you and a sister, I believe she's from Phoenix, she just recently got a degree, a master's, a
Her
PhD or
doctor,
something. Yes, what's her name?
Sister DeAndrea.
DeAndre from Phoenix, right?
Yes.
And you all have a podcast that you all do.
Well, I actually it's her podcast. I was just the
Okay.
first guest, and I was so
Oh,
honored to be the first guest. So that was a blessing.
well, that is good, and it's something that's definitely needed. So let's get straight to the nitty gritty, as they say, right? So first, I would like to begin by asking you, how were you first introduced to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and what led you to accept Islam?
Wow. So I'm going to try and make it as short as possible. When I was 17, I'm from Cleveland, and I would always see the FOI on the street. My mother would watch the minister on C-SPAN. I never watched, but she would always say how much she loved the minister. So there was these silent seeds planted just by seeing her watch him. I would see the FOI in downtown Cleveland, and I would always buy Final Call, but I'm sad to say I would never read the final call, but I would buy the final call. So I had just this introduction of connecting um, the men of Islam and Islam in general with the final call. But when I was 17, I went to Cornell, and when you're on a when you're at a white school, the first thing you do, if you're a black person, you look for other black people. So I found my tribe, and um, I'm telling this story because it kind of leads
Yeah,
into a
tell
thing.
it.
So um, I we had this group of friends. One of my friends, she's African, and she's first generation. So she was just sharing about how she didn't have any white people in her family,
Hmm.
and I was by that because one, you know, most of us who are from the hills of North America, we have, Caucasian somewhere in our family line. But she was also just talking about how she could trace her lineage. I
Hmm.
mean, like she could trace hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And I remember becoming so emotional because as I said, I was 17, but I couldn't trace beyond like my great great grandmother. And just the gravity of what Satan has done to our families. And so that was something that sparked something in me. And one of my friends, I was just really, it was very hard for me to grasp just the gravity of how my family had been impacted. And so That was a part of getting me to know and learn more. So one of my friends, well, I had two friends at Cornell, no, correction, three friends at Cornell who came into the nation. And one of my friends, I was constantly just wanting to just find out more about Islam. Their life had been transformed. And when I was in college, I saw the minister. And though I didn't accept at that time, I was so interested in what the minister said. And we're going to put a pause there. And then maybe a year, no, I would say 2 years after I saw the minister, and this was in Cleveland, where I'm from. Um, my father, who lived here in Chicago, I visited my father, and at the time, some believers had a bookstore as well as a little eatery, and I heard the minister's voice, and I was walking. My father lived in he lived in a suburb of Chicago, and I was walking, and I heard the minister's voice, and I just followed the voice. I had planned to go to the mall, but I heard the minister's voice, and I walked into the bookstore. I purchased all of the books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I came home. Didn't go to the mall. I came home. Yes, I bought every book. Came home, started reading. The sister had also. It was a Thursday. The sister had also invited me out to study group. That they had a study group in the suburb that met on Thursdays. I
Mhm.
went to the study group, and that was it.
Wow.
I heard Sister Ava, may Allah be well pleased with her. And upon seeing Sister Ava, that was it. Where do I sign up? And that's my story, and that was really the Cliff Notes version. But that was how I came here to this point, and to see Sister Ava, she was so powerful, and I was I just knew I had to be a part of the Nation of Islam to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I've been helping ever since.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for sharing it, and definitely may Allah be pleased with Sister Ava. That's interesting. You had plans to go to the mall, heard that voice, and
And
then
kept walking.
think about that scripture that said, "My sheep know my voice." Huh?
Yes.
Think about that. My sheep know my voice. So as we transition from your story of how you came into the nation, I would like to next ask you, um, what first sparked your interest in therapy and in the mental health work? And was there a specific moment or experience that led you down that path? And this is for those who are viewing, this is our sister's website. So make sure you go and check it out. And also you can find out more about her work.
Well, thank you for that question. I have always wanted to help people.
Mm,
I've always, since I was a little girl, wanted to be in some kind of helping profession. I started out wanting to be a nurse. When I was in college, I, for a very short time, was pre med, and it wasn't a good fit for me. But when I was in high school, one of my friends, she used to call me Mother Wisdom because I would always, all of my friends would come to me and ask me for advice, and I would share advice as if, I knew it all, which I didn't. But it was sharing and helping and guiding people was something that seemed very natural for me. And so that was the beginning, I would say, of my going down this path of helping people. I'm a social worker, so from the time that I graduated from college, I've always been doing something within social services. So I've always helped, but it was probably about, about 10, 11 years ago when I decided that I really wanted to not just help people in a general way, but help people in this very specific way as a psychotherapist. And
Mm.
so I began that process of getting my master's and uh, just beginning to do the work that I love. And I love it so much that it doesn't seem like work. It's just something that I do naturally, helping my people.
Wow, and that's beautiful. And you're talking about helping your people in the manner in which you do as it relates to therapy. I know you hear a lot, right? And so as someone who hears a lot, and most people who have a desire to serve also have they have a love of people, they have a love of serving people and helping people, and that also means they take on a lot too, right? So how do you handle, you with the emotional work that you have and carrying that emotional weight of others, and also you're managing your own mental health personally? How do you balance that?
It is definitely a balancing act. I make time for me. I learn to say no.
Mm,
No when I mean no. I can definitely say I'm a recovering people pleaser.
mm,
And it can sometimes, when you just have this desire to help, and it doesn't make a difference what the capacity is, when you are just people pleasing, while other people may be getting the benefit of your help, it's sometimes draining you. And
mm,
so I had to get to the point where I needed to check in with myself, and I do now. It's not a problem. I would say, several years ago, it was certainly a problem, but now I believe that I've gotten a good grip on how to check in with myself. When I need rest, I rest. When I need to stop, I stop. When I can do, I do. And as long as I'm being true to me, and not doing something I don't want to do, I'm one of those people that I'm an empath, and I do everything just based on, okay, well, what's my spirit telling me? And if I'm if my spirit is telling me, sis, you need to stop, I will stop, and be okay with it. And I think for many of us, we have to learn to check in with ourselves and stop when needed, so that we don't go over the edge, because that's what will happen if we are constantly going and going and going and going and going, and never taking the time to stop or fill up or refill ourselves.
mm. Beautiful, beautiful. And that is true, and we definitely need to know our limitations. And it's interesting you mentioned people pleaser, because I've heard that word twice in the last week. One, recently, I heard it today with a major trial that's going on, and then there's a book I'm reading about this R&B artist from the city of New Orleans, PJ Martin, and he talks about how he had to work to overcome being a people pleaser. So that's real. That's real. And thank you for sharing that. Now, in the Final Call newspaper, I saw where you wrote an article, and in the article, you talked about how therapy is not a quick fix, and that healing also requires work from the client. Can you explain what that work looks like in practice?
Yes. The work looks like being able to commit to change, being
Mm,
able to acknowledge this is the issue, or the problem or the concern that I want to address, and being able to do what's necessary to, stop the problem, or or the issue, or whatever it is. It sometimes people will come to therapy and say, I want you to fix me. I can't fix you. You have to fix you. That is not my job to. First of all, you're not broke,
Mm,
but the work is your desire to want to again not do X, Y, and Z, or not engage in certain activities, or whatever the issue or the concern is. And when I work with clients, I can only do so much. If
mm,
you don't want to put in the work, sometimes the work may be showing up for therapy, right? So in the beginning, the expectation is you show up. If we have a session scheduled for 8 o'clock, show up at 8 o'clock. Don't show up at, you know, 8:50 saying, "Oh no, because I have a 9 o'clock, so we have to reschedule." So being able to make the commitment to do what's necessary. Usually, when we are in or working in a therapeutic session, one of the things that we talk about is, well, what are your goals? What are the things that you want to accomplish? And loosely, it's a treatment plan. And we talk about, well, this is what we can work on. These are the types of things, and usually most treatment plans are fluid. So today is the goal, but maybe 3 weeks down the line, we may be adding to that treatment plan. We may be modifying. We may be making some adjustments, and so the work is being able to be committed, even if you aren't sure how you're going to do it. Starting point, come into the session. Starting point, I usually will give homework, or some type of assignment or something. Nothing major, but it helps me to kind of see it. Where are you in terms of the commitment? Are
mm,
you remembering? Are you coming back to say, "Oh, I saw X, Y, and Z. I did this. I wrote this down." And so that helps me to kind of see where the commitment level is, and that translates into work, and it's an ongoing process.
mm, and that's so needed because you have people that end up doing that where they're trying to put the work of bettering themselves or doing something for themselves on somebody else when really it's on us. And when we understand that, we'll begin to start we'll begin to start making the progress that we need. And I often mention, even in religion, sometimes I tell people we have to be careful, even how we bring Islam to people, because sometimes we can bring Islam to people in what I would say, like in this term, in a welfare manner. What I mean by that is that we're going to do everything for them and they don't have to do anything in their salvation. And that goes against the Bible and the Quran. And since we're talking about Islam, we know that Islam impacts every aspect of our life. So as a therapist, how do you balance your faith and your clinical training in your therapeutic approach?
The balance is easy
Mm,
because everywhere I go, I'm me. I'm a Muslim. I'm an MGT. So in my clinical space, you're gonna get the MGT. And I work with Muslims. I work with just our beloved Black people in general, mostly Black women. I work with other Muslim communities, and I'm me. I You're gonna always get everyone. I've worked with Caucasians. Everyone gets the teachings. It's so I can't not be me.
mm,
I cannot not be Saaudiah Muhammad, a member of the MGT and GCC. So you're going to get the teachings. For my clients who are Muslim, we we're going to talk about scripture. We're going to talk about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're going to talk about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We're going to talk about Master Farrakhan Muhammad. You're not. It's going to happen. For my clients who are not Muslims, by name, by acknowledgement, they're going to get it, but it's going to be, um, you know, it you it's I'm very I don't force anything on anyone. But again, you're getting me as an MGT, as a Muslim clinician, and so I'm coming in with, and it's a term, a clinical term, use of self.
Mm,
Well, my use of self is who I am as a Muslim, and for a lot of my clients who are not Muslim, they told me that they selected me as a clinician because I was a Muslim,
mm.
which all praise is due to Allah, or they suspected that I was a Muslim, because sometimes, you can see a name and just, not know, but um, yeah.
Beautiful. And since we're talking about your therapeutic approach, what would you say are some misconceptions that what are some of the biggest misconceptions about therapy that you hear from Black people, but also Muslims, right? Because that's an interesting spin as well.
Yeah. Um, I would say sometimes misconceptions can be therapy are for those people that need it, but I don't need it. I'm good. Sometimes people will say that therapy is just for those who are quote unquote crazy, right? Sometimes people will say, "Oh, therapy is for white people. I don't need that," and I am constantly trying to dispel the stigma that has been placed on therapy as this thing that no one needs, or um, it's for other people, but it's not for you. It's a safe space. It's
Mm,
a safe space with a clinician who has been trained. It's a space where if you are experiencing some level of, it could be anxiety, depression, responding to some kind of trauma or stress or anything that's causing you discomfort. It's a place where you can speak to someone. You can maybe learn some means and methods to cope. You can maybe learn how to reduce some of your anxiety. You can maybe, you know, uh, find some ways to address feelings of depression or whatever. Um, you know, Therapy is for everyone.
mm,
We all live in this world. This is a wicked world, and we all need a space to have someone that can listen to us in a non-judgmental way, in a safe space, that what you say in your therapy session will not be, on the 6 o'clock news. It will not be a Facebook post, but it will be contained, and you can, you know, rest assured that your clinician, hopefully, is, doing all that they can to help you to address those issues and those concerns. But we all are experiencing the stress of living in this world, and having an outlet in which you can unplug, talk about, and even just share things that you may not be able to say
mm.
or talk to with your friends or your family. I think it's something that's needed and that we can all benefit from.
Beautiful. And how do you handle as it relates to, there are people who may be dealing with depression or suicidal thoughts or trauma, but because they're also quote unquote religious or their religious practice, they may be feeling like they're demonstrating a lack of faith or uh like by them going and participating in therapy is making them lesser Muslim, lesser Christian. How do you handle people who have those such thoughts?
It's a very for many, it can be a very sensitive topic. It could be a very sensitive point in time because so many people can connect their faith with their ability to endure so much, and sometimes people feel like, um, in order to be a good whatever, a good Christian or a good Muslim, I have to be able to endure so much pain and discomfort, and just kind of sit with it versus being able to talk to someone, being able to have someone to help you through or guide you through whatever it is that you may be experiencing. It's not a sign or a show of weakness. If you get to the point where you are reaching out to a clinician, that's a sign of strength. That's a sign that you are wanting to get some help, and you recognize that maybe I can't lift this burden by myself. Maybe Allah directed me to contact this person who could help me. So, in my work, I would, infuse faith in that. I work with Muslims, but I also work with persons who are Christians, and we talk about Jesus. We talk about God's love, and I would infuse what I have in terms of faith with that person in my session, so that one, they don't feel abandoned or feel as if, whatever misconceptions that they may have, that those misconceptions, that they're going to rest on those misconceptions versus my saying, no, 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 it's not weakness. It's actually strength, being able to say, I need some assistance. I don't know, X, Y, and Z. And it's every situation is different, but sometimes it may be, um, some of the same common themes that come up, and um, I just try and work with that person with compassion, not being judgmental, because sometimes just being compassionate, having that place of empathy where you just acknowledge that they are hurting. Sometimes we will invalidate people because maybe we don't understand what it is that they're going through, but I don't need to have walked your path to recognize that maybe it's been a difficult path. I because I've had my own difficult path, but I know what it feels like to have a difficult path or a difficult situation. So if you're experiencing it, I can have a place of empathy, and that kind of shapes how I approach you in a therapeutic space.
Thank you for that.
I
Thank
know
you
that
for
was
those.
a bit long, so my
And that,
apologies.
oh no, 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 that's is needed because oftentimes it's those thoughts that prevent people from coming and get the help. And I often tell people there are Muslim therapists, there are Muslim Christian therapists, there are people that God has raised and they believe in God and they have a spirit and God has given them that that skill. And as you open up talking about how you came into Islam, one of the reoccurring things that you continue to kept saying was that how you always had a desire to want to help people. And I probably imagine like you also had a desire to probably want to help our people in particular. And that desire lines up with why God left this holy place to come here. So you being in the Nation of Islam is definitely no coincidence. You have the same desire and you're doing it in a way where now you've also went to go and get the training. So with the training and with what you're learning in the teachings, why not? Right? And that leads to my next question. What role can mosques, study groups, and faith leaders play in normalizing mental health support? Because you can hear from some rostrum, some unfortunately some rostrum, some I don't know some of the other words that they call the podiums and all of the other stuff that can discourage people. So what can Mars study groups and faith leaders do?
Well, mental health is real. It's
Mm,
it's not made up. It's not fictitious. Just like when someone comes into the mosque or a study group, you're not getting their health records, right? You're not saying, I need to see your my chart and see if you have hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol. Well, think about it. When people have all kinds of ailments. And with mental health, there are some mental health issues that may impact behavior, right? So you may be able to spot that something is a little off, right? Something is a little not right or different. But then there are some mental health issues that, unless you maybe have an intimate relation, I don't mean intimate in that way, but just intimate close, you may see, something about that person, maybe certain behaviors or certain thoughts and things like that. You don't know what they have experienced, what certain family histories may be present. And people can have like drug induced psychosis. We don't know what people's backgrounds, none of that. And I would say that we have to, again, going back to compassion and care, and know that when whatever has led us to come to Islam or come to the church or whatever place of worship, that people are coming from all kinds of situations. And just like you wouldn't discourage a person to get a yearly checkup, see their primary care physician, why would you discourage someone from seeing a clinician or someone who could help a person? That to me is kind of insane. If someone is clearly having some issues, or even if it's not so clearly, if someone just says, I'm having some issues and problems, why would you discourage someone from seeking assistance and help? It doesn't mean that you can't see a therapist and be a devout Muslim. So we have to get rid of this misconception that two things can exist. I
mm,
can, you know, if someone has bipolar disorder, I can be seeing my clinician, my psychiatrist on a regular basis, and guess what? Be a top soldier. And all praise is due to Allah. Why would we discourage anyone from seeking assistance that will help them to continue to do the work, that will help them to hopefully live a better life and be more productive member of society or in their family or in our community. So we have to just understand that mental illness is a disease, just like any other disease of the body. It's a disease in most cases that deals and affects sometimes our people's thinking or their thoughts or just how they function on an individual level, but sometimes how they function around other people.
mm. And that is definitely true. And as you were talking, it made me think about how in some religious spaces, synagogues, mosques, whatever, you will find people who are not trained clinicians, but will make informal diagnosis of people. Or that person must be schizophrenic. And even now, the word that's being thrown out a lot is narcissist. And somebody told me that you have to that has to be a clinical diagnosis. Am I correct? And
Yes.
And we're
It's a
having people,
personality disorder.
yeah, like people who are not clinicians, but you can tell some, you can give a informal, untrained diagnosis of somebody, but then you want to come around and tell them not to go see somebody who is trained in it. It just, come on, man, it just doesn't make any sense, right? And since we're talking, the minister saw something in the Nation of Islam, and some like that something was impeding us, right, from fully manifesting what we've been given. And then he found something in Dianetics that he felt that can help us as a tool to what Master Farad Muhammad came to bring us. Now, I've noticed in talking to some people that there's some who are familiar or skilled in Dianetics, that they have a certain view about therapy, and then there's some who in therapy have a certain view about Dianetics, right? So, what's your perspective on this divide, and is there a way that we can bridge the two?
Well, um, sometimes people like, and you just said it, sometimes people like speaking on things that they are not trained about.
Mm.
Dianetics is an amazing tool. It is a tool that we should all be using. Dianetics is not therapy. The two are not the same. And the mistake that people make is, if you've ever been audited, then you have had a very specific experience that focused on a very specific discomfort and situation in your life that has caused you issues and problems, and maybe recurrent thoughts and things like that, and it may have impacted your behavior, and that's a very specific moment and place and time. Therapy, it spans the spectrum when it comes to addressing not just what issues that you may be experiencing right at this moment, but it really goes into often your past and behaviors, situational things that you may be experiencing. Something that happened at work yesterday may not necessarily be a situation that you may want to have an auditing session on. However, you may want to speak with your therapist about it. So the two, while there are some similarities, but it's really not the same. If you had an auditing session, you're repeating over and over that particular incident that has caused you discomfort until you've gone over it multiple times until it's such time that situation is no longer, you're no longer reacting to it.
Mhm.
And again, it's very specific, situational specific. Whereas therapy, it really runs the whole gamut of so many things that you may be experiencing. And, we're not just going over one thing, back to back. We may skip, it's really a session. Every session is different and unique. And we may go in starting off thinking we're going to focus on one particular issue, and we may end up talking about something else because it comes up. And in therapy there's an exchange. It's in With Dianetics, it's not as much of an exchange. You're going over that discomforting situation, but the auditor is asking a very specific question in reference to your very specific issue. So the methodologies are different, but again, they're like maybe distant cousins, but not brother and sister, or not twins. Definitely not twins, but maybe we'll even say an aunt. you know, and, but they're both amazing tools to help us. But for those who are not fully aware of what therapy is, I think it would be good to just do some research before making assumptions.
It's true. And then just like what you said, if we're trying to if somebody's trying to build a house and they only want to use a hammer, ain't gonna be too much building, right? So if somebody trying to build something, there's a variety of tools to get the job done. And if we're trying to build this human being, this God in the flesh, we got to use whatever tools that work for us, and some tools work, some tools may not be the best fit for me, but this works. But okay, if it works and it's helping you move, then that continue to keep doing that. And let's get to this with this next question. Hold on one second. You see this phone. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not gonna answer it on air, so don't worry about that. But so as if I should have unplugged that when I came in. But here's the other question is that I mentioned about how you are also an author, right? And you have some journals on your website. I'm going to have them pull it up here. This is just one of the many. And this is the Better Self Journal series, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about first tell us about this series and what inspired it and how can people use it on their journey to healing. And I'm gonna leave it up a little bit while you talk about
Well, the Better Self Journal was born from my work with Black women. A lot of the Black women clients that I've worked with have, not every, but a fair amount have experienced issues, concerns when it comes to self worth and value. I also wanted to do the journal as a means to motivate, to encourage. So there's writing prompts, there's motivational uh, pictures within the journal. It really, for those who enjoy journaling, it's an opportunity to one see yourself, or representation of yourself on the cover. It was something that I wanted to, something tangible that I wanted to have available for those who would want to use it. I'm a proponent of doing as much as I can to try and encourage those that I work with. I also, in addition to the Better Self Journal, I also created a therapy journal
it.
that I often encourage my clients to use because uh, I, at most, I may see clients once a week, but there's so much that may happen from the time that I see them until we see each other again. And so the therapy journal is a means to kind of track or highlight anything that may have happened. But I feel that it's important for us, with going back to the Better Self Journal, to have representation. All of the images of people, people of color, um, and it's something that we don't always see in journals or in anything that may be for our uh, betterment. We don't always see our representation. As you see all my pictures, and this is my therapy office, and I want people to know that you're gonna see someone that may represent you, or represent your cousin or your aunt or your mother or someone. But representation is really big for me and real for me, and so I wanted to create something where it was lasting, and representation. And I have my copy,
There we
the
go.
Better Self Journal.
Show them. Hold on. Show them. So
Oh,
I don't know. Did you hear me? Was I talking? Or I was off
Oh, I
screen.
couldn't hear
Or you
you.
couldn't hear me. I was saying that for people, let me bring it back up. So you want to get those journals, you can go to our sister's site. And then in addition to that, if somebody who may be watching, they may be interested in therapy, right? That they can reach out to our dear sister, because some people, what better fit when you have somebody who's a therapist, but also a member of the Nation of Islam, which means that this person is rooted in a love for our people and a love for God, the true God. And this is somebody who has been sitting under, and you got the documents to back this up, hours and hours of teaching from the master teacher, right? That's preparing us. So what benefit, that's a great benefit. And I'll lead to this question. you know for someone who is afraid to start therapy, what what would be the first step you would recommend?
I would recommend thinking about the type of therapist that you may want. It may be someone who, again, looks like you. It may be someone, who's the same gender as you. It may be someone who is the same religion as you. I would say, I know for me, I all of my doctors are black. I wish all of my doctors could be Muslim, but all of my doctors are black. I'm just that person that I try and support those that look like me. Um, and but for someone who may be a little afraid, I would say, really think about whatever it is that you are experiencing, and do you want to continue to still experience what it is that you're experiencing? If you don't want to continue to experience what you're experiencing, then take that step. Yes, it's going to be a little scary. Anything that we haven't done before can be scary. But
Mhm.
scary doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. It just means it's something that you haven't done before. And while there may be fear and even a little trepidation, it doesn't mean that it won't be a good experience. And even with therapy,
Mm.
you may find someone who isn't a good fit, and it's okay to say, yeah, I'm gonna look for someone else. When therapy is such a very personal experience, you're oftentimes sharing parts of you that other people may not see. And
Mm.
so it's really important to find someone that you can connect with, find someone that you feel comfortable with. Not everyone will feel comfortable with, someone, so it's really important to find someone that you feel that you can connect with. The reality is, you really won't know until you actually have a session. You may not know until, I've had people look at my Psychology Today page and say, I like the way you look. So they reached out to me. And I appreciate that. But it has to be more than just, I mean, that's a starting point. But really, to know if it's going to be a good fit is having that first session, or with what most clinicians do, you have a consultation call. And it's usually maybe 15 minutes. And that consultation call can tell you a lot of information. So it's a starting point.
Mm.
And you can start with someone and, again, maybe decide it's not a good fit, but you may decide, wow, I think I want to have another session. And I think I want to have another session and another session. And before you know it, hopefully you're feeling better, and you decided to take a step. It was a step where it was filled with fear, but that's okay.
That's okay. And as we get ready to close, one of the uh, things I've added to the show this year is that I asked the previous guests to leave a question, right, for the next guest, who all they don't even know who it is, right? So it's interesting how this works out. The previous person before the last person I interviewed was a sister Angelica X, and she's from, I think she's from Cleveland as well. She does a lot of talk about heal. She's not from Cleveland. I think she's from Ohio, but she does a lot. She does a lot of work in the community around healing, right? So, but I'm also going to ask you to leave a question for our next guest. But first, I want to ask you the question that she asked, right? And she said this: what is the best way for a new registered believer to balance accepting their own and being themselves in a relationship with the day-to-day life and the world in which we live in? So what do you say? That's a good question for a therapist.
Yes, it's a good question. Um, Recognizing one as a believer, this is a very wicked world. So there's going to be a lot of things that's contrary to what we believe, what we practice as Muslims. And so we really have to create a shield against a lot of the things that happens in this world. What is it? You know, we could be in the world, but not of the world.
Mhm.
And we really have to take on that like and wear it like an armor. When you're new in the nation, there's so much to learn. So be a sponge, soak up as much information, talk to our pioneers. To when I first came into the nation, I had the blessing of being able to be in the presence of Mother Farrakhan and some of the sisters who worked with her during that time at the MDT shop, and I would ask 1,000 questions because I didn't even realize how honored I was during that time. But I would ask every question that I could think of. When Sister Bessie Jean was the captain, I would ask 1,000 questions. And so always be curious, always ask questions, protect yourself, guard yourself, do all that you can to help our people, but we also have to be guarded to not fall off the straight path or go off on the right path. And so, be curious and stay guarded, but also, soak up as much information as you can, especially from our wonderful pioneers.
That's beautiful. And so, what would be a question you would like to leave for the next person?
My question is, what can you do to support your emotional and mental health? What small step can you take to support your emotional and mental health?
Emotional and mental health. And we're gonna have to have you back on the show. Anytime, I'll tell you this, if your schedule allows, when we want to talk about mental health, you're gonna be my go-to person. Get you on, and we'll do some shows that actually talk about it. And I'm for real. So just I'll let you know. And you mentioned it, so I got to ask. I didn't know you had opportunities to be around Mother Khadijah and Sister Bessie Jean. So
It
I
was
know
when
it's
I
like on
first came in the nation,
when you
and I
first, is
promise
there
you,
anything when you if you take a moment and reflect back about that, was there any like memorable moment or jewel that Mother Khadijah may have shared, or something that you observed, or even Sister Bessie Jean that you saw that you can share?
well, when I will always thank Allah for Mother Farrakhan because it was Mother Farrakhan that encouraged me to take my first social work job.
Mm,
I had graduated from college, and I was working for Sean. And at the time, Fashawn was literally right next door to the MDT shop. So I would spend my days um, hanging out with the sisters in the MDT shop, and I didn't want to. I graduated from college. I had gone on my very first job interview. I had gotten a job interview, and it was working child welfare. And mother told me, she said, go out there and help our children. And I took the job. And that got me into social work. And and here I am. So I will always thank Allah for Mother Farrakhan for encouraging me. And she also said, because my mother is deceased, and she also said, your mother didn't send you to college to do this. She said she sent you to help people. And with that encouragement, because I was battling, I didn't want to take the job. I wanted to continue to answer phones. And mother said, no, ma'am. And that literally changed my life. It changed my life. And I will always thank Allah for her being a mother to me and just, doing that thing that mothers do. And she was like, no, ma'am, you help our children. And that's what I did.
Because it's needed, it is definitely needed. And since your life is in this little bitty time that we've had this interview, but it just, to me, like, your life has when they say your steps have been ordered, right? You've had a since young, a natural desire to want to help and serve people. You come into the nation, you hear the minister, you're in the work of social work, and here you come in and you wanted to, like all of us, I want to work for the nation. And sometimes we don't realize that working for the nation is broad. Like what you're doing right now is working for the nation, because the nation is not just a building on Stony Island or here in the city of New Orleans. No, it's our people. And then Mother Khadijah tells you that. And think about the people that you are impacting inside the nation and even outside the nation.
Praise be to Allah.
So keep it up. Any closing words? Was there anything you would like to share that you didn't have the opportunity to share?
Wow, I just feel so very blessed and honored to have the opportunity to talk about mental health. It is a passion of mine. I'm currently completing my doctorate. Inshallah, I'll be done in December.
Ooh,
And
doctor.
yes, all praises due to Allah. I look forward to just continuing to help in whatever way that I can, because I do feel I was born to help people in this manner.
And keep it up. And even with your, you make your post on TikTok and social media using. I'm starting to learn, like, looking at different little things that people are saying to do. They want short, no more than a minute and 30 seconds, but those posts help, right? And because that's one of the ways I found out I saw you. I was like, that's a sister who be on who sit in the rostrum. Oh, she's a therapist. And keep it up. So thank you. This won't be the last time, inshallah, God willing. We're going to have you back. And we're going to keep pushing, so those even inside the nation and even outside the nation will continue to strive to make sure that we get the help that we need. So thank you, and may Allah continue to bless you.
Likewise, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Future Dr. Saaudiah is coming. I'm calling into
Thank
existence.
you.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
And so we're glad that you all tuned in, and I know I enjoyed the show, and I pray that you all, and I pray that we take to heart from what our sister said, right? So if you want to find out more about it, if you look back at our, we'll pull it up. You can reach out to our sister. She's on, this is a website, but you can also find her at Muslim Therapist. And if you go back and you look at this show under her, the lower third, you'll see her IG information and things like that. So we thank each and every one of you all for tuning in. This is your brother Willie Muhammad, and we're signing off until next time. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation.
What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.